Hi, my name is Rod Khleif, and I'm the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. And every week I interview multifamily rock stars, and we talk about how they've built incredible wealth for themselves and their families through multifamily properties. So hit the like and subscribe buttons to get notified every Monday when a new episode comes out. Let's get to it. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy my friend who I'm interviewing today. His name is Darin Batchelder, and Darin and I actually got to know each other a little bit at a mastermind event we went to in Jamaica recently. But Darin is a GP in 300 doors, a KP in over 150 doors, but he's an LP in almost 4,000 doors. And so he brings a wealth of experience to the show. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, Rod, I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor.
Oh, thank you. Well, this will be a lot of fun today. And it was a blast in Jamaica, jumping into holes of water and going out on boats and all kinds of crazy stuff that we did. But in fact, I'm seeing posts come through right now on it. It's kind of funny on my right screen here. But maybe you could tell my listeners a little bit about your story, how you got started, how you got into real estate, like we do, normally, and then we'll drill down on some topics.
Sure. So I'm a little older than a lot of the folks out there. I'm 50. I didn't get involved with real estate until about 3 years ago. So I own another business that I started back in 2007, trading loan portfolios, residential, multifamily, and commercial real estate loans, bank to bank, larger transactions. And about 3 years ago, I decided I really wanted to get involved with actually purchasing real estate. And when I did that, when I made that shift, it's a big honor being here today, because when I made that shift, your podcast was one of the podcasts that I spent a lot of time listening to people and trying to learn from other people that have already done it. And so here we are 3 years later, and it's an honor to be on the other side of it.
Well, I really appreciate your kind words, buddy. So 3 years. Wow, you've done a lot in 3 years. So how did it happen so quickly?
A few things. One, I finally decided to get in the game, and I did what a lot of people do. A lot of people get involved in single family. I decided to buy a duplex. It was a new construction duplex. My wife and I entered into that contract in October of 2017. And, it was new construction, so it was going to take a year to build. Once I entered into that contract, I realized, look, I'm going to make some money on this deal, but it's not going to be life-changing, and it's going to take forever to really build wealth going duplex, fourplex, eightplex. So I wanted to find another way to go. And I wanted to go bigger. I wanted to go faster. So I reached out to different groups and met other people that were in the industry that had already done what I wanted to do. And I started surrounding myself with other people that had done it, and they gave me guidance on how to move forward.
Nice. Yeah, that really makes all the difference in the world. That's why, our students in our Warrior program just kill it, because they're doing deals between each other, investing in each other's deals, co-sponsoring each other's deals. And, there's strength in numbers. A rising tide lifts all ships. So I know that, we talked before we started recording that you did a lot of limited passive investing. And I mean, you're in almost 4,000 doors with other investors. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe some of the trepidation you had, some of the things you went through, some of the due diligence you went through, maybe make some suggestions to my listeners who might be thinking about getting into passive investing? Maybe they're scared, they haven't done their first passive deal. And so maybe give them some counsel as to what they might look for and think about. And let's do that.
Absolutely. So in my loan trading days, I just saw the performance on multifamily loans, and how banks that could get comfortable with buying multifamily loans just love them because they performed very, very well. So I became very familiar with the asset class. And so when I moved over and decided to get involved in the limited partner side, I pulled a bunch of capital out of the stock market, and I decided I wanted to become a limited partner for a few different reasons. One is I really liked the asset class, and I felt like it was a better place to put my money as compared to the stock market. I felt like it was, from a capital preservation standpoint and also from a wealth growing standpoint, it was a much better place for me to park my capital. Secondly, my end goal was that I wanted to become a general partner. I wanted to become a lead sponsor. And so I wanted to understand what it felt like as a limited partner. I wanted to understand the documents I had to sign. I wanted to understand the communication that I get on a monthly basis. So that's why I made the decision to pull money out and start doing a bunch of limited partner deals.
So talk about some of the things that you look for in a general partner. I've got a resource that I'm going to share with you guys as well. I've got a list of 50 questions that, to ask a general partner in a syndication before investing. And if you guys want that, just text GP questions to 41411. That's GP questions to 41411 if you're interested in potentially pursuing this. But I'd love to get your feed on this as well. Just some of the things that you look for when you're evaluating, someone that you're going to give your hard-earned money to.
Absolutely. So look, when I started doing it, I didn't have a document like you just offered up to your listeners. So I would say take advantage of that. If you guys are interested in your first deal, look, I would have loved to have read a document like that. So I did not have that resource. But here's kind of the way I looked at it was I kind of followed the recipe that a lot of people talk about, know, like, and trust. So I wanted to get to know the person. I wanted to understand that they had a track record. And I want, some people you just click with and some people you don't. Even if they have a great track record, maybe the personalities are just off. And so I wanted to pick people that I know, like, and trust. And I talked to a lot of other people that were limited partners in other deals and asked them their feedback as to, who do you like working with and why? And so from that, that kind of narrowed down the gap for me. Nice. And then I focused on people that I actually had, the opportunity to interact with, either at conferences or meetup groups or, individual one-on-ones over the phone or coffee meetings. And I focused on that set of group. I also
you went with your gut quite a bit, and really your referral network. I mean, you went with testimonial, referrals from other people, and where they shared their experiences.
Absolutely, referrals, my gut, and also, I was looking to be a GP. I wanted to spread it out and partner with, in a number of different deals. So I did 7 in 2018. I did 7 limited partner deals, and I did it with all different sponsors.
Wow.
And it was because I wanted to see the communication styles from each partner. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to mold my own style from that. So I would take what I liked from one, and what I didn't like, I would leave that alone and then pick up a piece from somebody else.
Nice. Yeah. And of course you're learning along the way. I know, in our deals with our investors, we try to educate them as much as we can and do webinars and have them show up for due diligence, inspections and things of that nature. I mean, we had like 20 at the last Dallas deal we just did. We've got another nice Dallas deal under contract, but yeah. So guys, get this list of questions. It will really help to be, you need to trust your gut, no question. You need to do your homework and ask for referrals, but these questions get into more specifics, regarding, do they have an operating reserve? What kind of financing are they getting? What's your hold term for the property? What's the CapEx budget? Who's going to manage the renovation? Who's going to manage? What happens if something happens to one of the KPs? You're going to be doing cost seg. I mean, on and on and on. So there's a bunch of questions here. Again, just text GP questions to 41411. So now let's talk about, well, let me ask you this. Did you have to push through any fear? Was there anything holding you back? Because I know some people are like, I want to do this, but I'm kind of scared to do it. Was there any of that? Can you speak to that just a little bit? I mean, it's a little more ethereal, but give me your feedback on that.
Absolutely. I think that there's fear. There was, for me, there was fear all along the way. And so I just had to push past that fear. And, I had seen so many other people grow their wealth and met so many other people that grew their wealth through multifamily investing that I had to force myself to go forward. So I remember my first passive deal. It's different than just buying an investment in the stock market where you go on and buy shares and click, done, and boom, you're done. And your brokerage account just takes care of it. Here, there's a LLC agreement you have to sign, a private placement memorandum you have to sign, a subscription document, an investor questionnaire. So one, I wanted to get, accustomed to those documents because when I'm a GP, I wanted to be able to be familiar with that.
Sure.
So I read all the documents.
Wow.
Front
and
to
stayed
back.
awake and stayed awake through it, huh?
Yeah. And it took me a little time. But then here's where the fear really came in is when, thankfully I'm a little older, I had capital. And so it wasn't the first deal wasn't going to change my life either way. But when I wired the money, in my other business, when loan portfolios trade, the wire happens and I get confirmation from the receiving bank that same day. Yep, we got the wire. So I thought it was going to work the same way. So I wired the money. I went and emailed the sponsor and said, hey, I just wired the money. Can you confirm receipt? I got no response. I'm like, holy cow, what's going on? So then I send a text message, no response.
Oh boy.
So about a half hour later, I actually call the sponsor. Sponsor picks up. He's like, hey, Darin, man, I got your email, got your text. I can see a number of different deposits coming in, but I can't see who it's from until the next morning. The bank gives me the details the next morning. And I actually used this on my first syndication deal, the same bank as that sponsor did. And true enough, that's exactly the process. So what I did, because I remember that fear as a limited partner, I told every one of my limited partners in my first syndication, hey, look, this is the process. You're going to wire the money, but I can't confirm until tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's smart.
And
pre-frame them. That's smart.
Yeah. And so then they were like, okay, thank you for telling me that, and once they knew the process, they were okay. And so, but there was fear there. And then the next day, the sponsor emailed me saying, hey, confirmed receipt. And I was good to go. And then, the next 6, I wasn't worried, I had already done it. But that first one, there was fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, let's talk about that first deal you did as an operator, because there's fear around that too, I'm sure. And
absolutely.
So why don't you talk about the deal? I think you handled all that. Is that the 76 one you were telling me about?
76.
So you found it, you did the whole 9 on it. So take us through that. Take us through that deal.
So here I would say, one critical component for your listeners, if you're looking to be active, and be a lead sponsor, is definitely, develop relationships with the brokerage community in your market. So the way I got this deal was, I actually was bidding on another deal in South Dallas, the month prior. And I basically ended up runner up on that deal, but I thought I was going to win the deal. It was the first time I was working with this particular broker, and we developed a really good relationship, and I just felt like I was going to win the deal. And when he told me that somebody outbid me, I was disappointed, but you pick yourself up and you go off to the next one. Well, he called me and he said, hey, Darin, I got this other deal, in South Fort Worth in a town called Crowley. It's the same amount of units. They were both 76 units. Why don't you go check it out? Well, I did a drive-by. I went by and I actually called him and I said, hey man, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm going to pass on the deal. I just didn't know that submarket that well. And, the property wasn't as well maintained as I would have liked. Well, he called me back like 3 days later and he said, Darin, you have to meet me at the property. And I was like, why?
The one you didn't like. Okay.
The one I didn't like.
Right. Okay.
I said, look, you gotta sell me on why I should go back out there. And he did, and he just gave me a couple high level points. One was, do you know what the median household income is of this area in Crowley? And I said, I didn't. And he said, it's like 60,000. I said, wow, like I've been bidding on a lot of properties that have been kind of mid 30s median household income. So it sounds like there's an opportunity there. And then secondly, he's like, look, you need to step inside the units because they're townhomes. They have larger ceilings, and maybe from the outside, they don't look as nice. But once you get inside, I think you're going to have a different feel. So he told me enough to get me to go out there. I went out there, and when I was in the units, sure enough, I was like, I would much rather live in a townhouse like this with these higher ceilings than live in an apartment with somebody living right above me.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm sold on the property. Now I just have to make the numbers work, go, visit other properties in the area, see what we can do from a business plan. But my point to all of that is that had I not gone on the other property in South Dallas, met the broker, developed a relationship, went after the deal, that broker would never have even known to call me back.
Yeah.
Right. And if he had not called me back and convinced me to go out there, I never would have had that deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, I know you told me you brought in someone I know quite well, Raj, and to help you sponsor that deal. And guys, that's how you do this, is you bring someone in that's done it before to be a sponsor for you, lend their resume, their balance sheet, their liquidity, maybe just experience, maybe net worth, whatever it is. And guide you and help you, and that's how this game is won. Is you do, it's a team sport. You do it together, and at some point, if you want to do it yourself, you can. But most people stay with a team approach to this. And so, talk a little bit though. Let's go back to that broker relationship, because this business is a team sport. It's all about relationships. Maybe you could talk a little bit about relationship building in general, and then maybe some of the things you do to stand out with these different relationships that you need to build, be it brokers, be it investors, be it, whatever else, property manager, whoever else you're building relationships with. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I have another business. And when I got involved with this business, it was all new, and I was doing it really to grow, my wealth. But one of the things that really charged me up after doing the first syndication deal was that I realized that this business is different than my other business. My other business, all the profit flows down to me and my family. And with these syndication deals, on that 76 unit deal, I partnered with Raj Gupta, and you're absolutely right. He was the experienced guy, and he's still kind of like my board of directors to date.
Right.
But we also had 44 limited partners in that deal. Mm-hmm. And so what I realized was, as we grow the value of the property and we end up having an exit strategy at some point, whether it be a cash out refi or sale, it's not only Darin Batchelder and my family that, is benefits from that, but it's my business partner, Raj Gupta, and his family, and the 44 limited partners. So I love the idea of getting involved with something that impacts so many different people. And so that's part of the part of the business that I really fell in love with, is helping other people grow their wealth through multifamily.
So talk about how that translates into relationship building. Because I want you to go somewhere with this, and if you don't, I'll kick you there. But
all right, well, point me in the right direction.
All right, because when you come at it from that place and you sincerely mean it, people will feel it. Okay. And that's kind of where I was going with this. If you're building a relationship and they know you truly care about them as much as you care about yourself, people feel that, and they feel that authenticity and that genuineness. And so, that's kind of where I was going with that. But so let's circle back to relationship building, because I know it's something you're good at. You did a great job with me in Jamaica. So I talk about, and don't feel like it's rudimentary, anything that you're going to bring up. But if you're approaching potential investors, you're approaching brokers, what might you do to start and build and nurture that relationship?
So, there's a number of different facets. Let's talk about just getting something that I'm passionate about, is trying to impact more people and reach more people. And look, I was not on any social media until I got involved in real estate 3 years ago. So I was not on Facebook. I was not on Instagram. I was on LinkedIn from my business perspective. But when I got involved, I started seeing the power of connecting with people all across the country that had interest in doing this. And so I attend a lot of multifamily conferences, but also a lot of entrepreneurial conferences. And I had a lot of people that were telling me, you really need to be on Instagram. And I was like, Instagram, that's like a toy app for my kids.
Right.
And so I started looking at it and I was like, really, do people, actually do business off this? And so then I went to a conference. I told my wife, look, I'm going to go there and I'm looking to meet somebody that actually knows what they're doing on Instagram and that can help me. And so I did. I found a guy who had like 300,000 followers and I hired him as a consultant. And I wasn't on Instagram, so I had 0 followers. And I told my kids I'm going to get on. They were laughing at me. And what I found through doing it, okay, and there was fear here too. It's funny because like with people that are not involved with putting out media on social media, there's a fear in the beginning of like posting, like, oh, what are people going to think of me? And, and what are they going to say? And all that, and just had to push past that fear and post. And what happened was all of a sudden somebody from Las Vegas or Chicago or Spain would reach out to me on Instagram and say, hey, can we get it together on a call? And I'd be like, yeah. And all of a sudden I realized, look, that's who I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for the people that I don't know yet, that this is a way for them to be introduced to the concept. And that gets me excited.
Interesting. Let me give you some feedback and some of it, honestly, may be a little constructive and so a little raw here, as it were. And I'm on Instagram as well. And I thought it was really important. And I mean, I have to look at my thing. I was looking you up as you were talking on Instagram, but I've done, for me personally, let me see how much posting I've done. It's been prolific. So 1,756 posts, okay? Adding value and so on and so forth. But I started thinking about this, Darin, and you've got, I think, about 8,000 people on yours. I think I've got like 24,000 because I haven't worked it properly. In Instagram, the best thing you can do is, from what I understand, is do stories and hey, I'm having breakfast or I'm doing this, and and just let people see behind the scenes, see your life. But I started thinking about the demographic on Instagram. And by the way, guys, I'm a huge proponent for building reach Darin has a podcast, using Facebook, using all these social media, LinkedIn and even Instagram. But I started thinking about who my avatar is from an investment standpoint, Darin, and looking at the age demographics between Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. To me, it was no question that I needed to hammer on Facebook and LinkedIn because of the age demographics. So I'm just giving you a little feedback, take it or leave it. But even for my coaching business, my avatar in the coaching business is someone in the IT field or an engineer background or someone analytical. And this is not everybody, but this is like, 70% maybe, in 30 years to 50 years old. And I just don't know that they're as prevalent on Instagram as some of these other social media platforms. So just 2 cents take it for what it's worth. But guys, those of you listening, to build this business requires you to create reach in some fashion. And so like with my warriors, my coaching students, I've got a couple dozen that have started podcasts, meetup groups. In fact, people like Raj started with a meetup group. I'm pretty sure most of the people that have been around a while that have thousands of doors like he does, and the people in my multifamily boardroom mastermind, did it through meetups because it was pre-social media really. And now, it's so easy to create reach, and you don't need tens of thousands of people. You just need, a few hundred that have some money that are ready to invest, as it were, if you're looking for investors. So anyway, just I'll stop babbling. But I do suggest that you think about who you're trying to reach and hone in on that medium, that vehicle, that site, as it were. And I just came to this realization on Instagram. So I'm just sharing you what I just went through. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to put as much effort there as I'm doing in the places where I think it's more target rich, as it relates to investors with money, as it relates to people that want to do this business as an operator. So anyway, please take that for what it's worth. But so as it relates to relationship nurturing, what do you do? I mean, you go out, you meet these people on Instagram or wherever, with your podcast. I know I was looking on Instagram and you've got your podcast episodes there as well. Do you put them on YouTube also?
So to date, I do not put it on YouTube because the platform that I use is audio only. Going forward, I will start to
I did that when I started too. Yeah, I did that when I started as well. I'm, for those of you thinking about starting a podcast, and I do a lot of coaching on this just to my students, but let me give you some feedback right now. So if you're going to go out there and you're going to create reach, there's two things you have to remember. Number one, you have to add value, period. You got to add value. If you put crap out there, I had somebody tell me, if you put out crap, you are crap. So add value, number one. But see, you can add value by interviewing experts, right? So that's one. Number two is you have to be consistent. Those are the two key things. If you're going to start one of these things, just commit that you're going to do it for a couple of years, period. Okay. Now, Darin, I'm going to give you some more feedback. Okay.
Yeah,
and that is, and so if you're going to create some content, if you're going to do a video like we do on Zoom, it needs to go everywhere. So you should have the video, you should have the content transcribed. So because people take in information differently. Some people are auditory. Those are the iTunes folks. Some people are visual. Those are the YouTube folks. And then there's some people that are visual, but they like to read their content. And so, I was blown away because we transcribe my podcast and we put it on YouTube. I was blown away when I found out last year, my YouTube videos got watched for 30,000 hours. I was like, holy shit. I couldn't believe how much it was. And it's more this year. And and it's just the simple act of taking those recorded content on those podcasts and putting it on YouTube. Occasionally I did a video there specific to YouTube, but very few, honestly. And then, so taking the content, putting it there, then taking the content, putting it on Facebook, taking the content, putting it on LinkedIn. So whatever you're doing, you want to cross-pollinate, okay? And you want to put it everywhere you possibly can because you've done the hard work, which is recording it. And so, you can get it transcribed very inexpensively. There are even apps that do it now. Otter is one. And then you throw it on a blog on your website. You do the video, you do the audio, you do all these different pieces, and you let people take it in the way they like to take it is really the point. But cross-pollinate for sure. Another
way to say that is go where the people are, right?
Well, that too. You want to go where the low-hanging fruit is.
Some people are on LinkedIn, some people are on YouTube, right. and so go where the people are.
That's true. Everyone has a favorite platform, and so or most people do, and so if you're hitting them all, I mean, you're golden, and it's just a matter of, little extra work to post there. So there's my 2 cents for those of you listening as well. If you're going to, start one of these things, if you think you're going to do a podcast, well, first of all, reach out to me. I'll help you. I do that anyway. I'll give you some information that'll help you. And secondly, cross-pollinate. But remember those two things, consistency and adding value. And it doesn't have to be your own value. It can be interviews. It can be people you bring in. And that's a beautiful thing. You can act as if, you can fake it till you make it, as it were, and as it relates to creating reach, because what you can do is just interview other people that are experts. And by very virtue of the fact that you're hosting whatever it is, the meetup, the podcast, the group in Facebook, the group in LinkedIn, or whatever, you can do it through interviews, and you're perceived as an expert, even though, you may just be the one guiding a conversation. So anyway, I'm stealing your entire interview here, buddy. I apologize.
No worries. Look, again, I'm honored to be on here, and I learned from you in the beginning, and I'm continue to learn from you. Look,
thank you.
I was on a call earlier today, and I asked the person I was talking with the exact same thing. He has a podcast also, and we were talking about how we can help each other. And he's on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I was talking to him about which one do you think adds more value and you gain more business from. And so because I have heard from a number of people that, LinkedIn is been a really good medium.
Yeah.
So, you just added to
that. We just really started ramping up our LinkedIn presence. We failed miserably up till literally a few months ago. And Instagram, yes, we're still posting there just because it's easy to throw content there, but it's really not our avatar. And by the way, guys, an avatar is you create this persona that you're going after. So if it's investors in the multifamily space, you try to figure out, what age group do you think they are? What do they do for a living? You can even name them. Ours is named Bob, so you can name that avatar and then you focus your marketing efforts on Bob or on that avatar, whatever that description of that person is. And like I said, in my thought leadership business and coaching, it's a 30 to 50-year-old person, primarily male, although we have lots of females, but the majority are male, and a lot of couples as well. But that's the age group, and just a lot of people in analytical type positions, engineering, IT, so on and so forth. So again, I'm sorry, I got off track again. So nurturing these relationships that you build with brokers, how often do you call them? What talk about that a little bit.
Well, the brokers, this year has been a little different because of COVID, right? So right. I was, hot and heavy last year and into the beginning of this year. And then February, I was very close on a deal. And then when I lost that deal, I ended up shifting strategy to the podcast. And so, through COVID this year, I have not been as active, reaching out to brokers.
Okay.
Because I've been looking at the deals and in DFW, it's been difficult,
right.
Making the numbers work. And I've been focused on the podcast.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Well, I think that, so let me answer the question because I don't want to leave that out there. And that is, guys, if you're going to start these relationships and build them, you need to be consistent as much as possible so that they know you're still there. You're calling them, emailing them, texting them, I would say every 2 or 3 weeks saying, hey, if you get anything, I'm here raising my hand, and not be obnoxious with it, but really, you're just creating friendships. Would you agree with that? That you're just building friendships?
Absolutely. People like to do business with people that they like.
Right.
And it goes, that holds true on the limited partnership standpoint too. And so,
right.
How do you stay in front of limited partners? Because, if after a while you don't get your second deal or your third deal, then the investors are like, all right, well, hey, if I don't hear from Darin, I'm going to have to invest my money someplace else. Right. So, what's a way to get in front of them? Well, having a podcast or having a newsletter, having a blog, some way of keeping in communication with your investors, I think is key. And it allows them to, look, I just went to a holiday party this weekend and I had a number of people come up to me and they're like, man, I've been listening to your podcast. I've been, reading your blogs, and they know a lot about what's going on in my life without me even having that conversation over the phone.
Nice. Yeah, that's another benefit for sure. Fantastic. So let me ask you some more general questions. Knowing what you know now, with your investing career to date, if you were to go back to your younger self, is there anything you might do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. One is I would start investing in real estate earlier, for sure. Right. Just the compound wealth building effect of real estate is just huge.
Right.
And then secondly, I would say I've had active investors that are looking to get their first deal that have asked me, hey, would you have done anything different now that you've got your first deal? And I said, yeah, I would. My philosophy when I was going after my first deal was I would only reach out to the broker and go on a property tour when I had underwritten the deal and the deal looked like it was something I was going to actually put a letter of intent on. Okay. And that slowed down the process of me meeting the brokerage community.
Yeah.
So I would recommend, looking at your first 2 months and say, okay, look, week 1, I want to go out on a property tour with somebody from Marcus and Millichap. Right. Week 2, I want to go out on a property tour with somebody from ARA. week
Right.
3, I want to go on it. You don't want to do it with all the same brokerage company
Right.
because then you're going to get a bad name for wasting everybody's time.
Right.
But if you break it up and visit like 8 properties over 2 months with 8 different brokerage companies, now you've got 8 brokers that are thinking about you and talking about you in their shop. And you do that in a very short time frame. That's what I would have changed.
Okay, well, that's great advice, and on all fronts. And just want to hammer home one thing he just said, and that is you don't want to hit more than one person, ideally in the same office, because you're going to piss them off. It's like, they all kind of work together, but they are competing with each other, and so that's very sound advice to pick different brokerages and go. And how are you going to really get to know someone unless you meet them? And by the way, guys, if you're going to invest in a market that you're not living in, then you start these conversations over the phone, but you must go there and meet them. You must go tour the properties, buy them breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, get to know them, because that's when the relationship really opens up. And I've heard this from you've pretty much stayed in your backyard, but I've heard this from numerous people that buy outside of their backyard, is you've got to go spend a few days there, and you literally need to be booked morning, noon, and dinner for meals and appointments and showings and on and on. So, well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming on. It's good to see you again. And
absolutely.
I appreciate the kind words about the podcast, and good luck with your podcast, and just good to have you on, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's nice to have a leader in the space that helped me get in and also is helping me level up. It's a great industry of people helping each other. So thank you very much.
That's what life's about, brother. All right. Well, it's good to see you. Happy holidays. If I don't talk to you before then, my friend, take care.
Absolutely. Right back at you.
All right.
Rod, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. Now, I know you've been hard at work helping our Warrior students do just that using our ACT methodology, which is awareness, close, and transform. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
You bet. Guys, we've been going nonstop for 3 years, building an amazing community of like-minded people. And our coaching students, which we call our warriors, have had extraordinary results. They've purchased thousands and thousands of units. And last year, we did over 1,000 units with our students. And we're looking to grow this group and take it to the next level. We're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework that's really step by step, and then leverage our systems and network to raise equity, to find and close deals, and to build partnerships nationwide. Now, our warrior community is finding success in any market cycle. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more of our incredible network and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are coming very soon, apply to work with us at mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411. That's mentorwithrod.com or text CRUSH to 41411.